Hi, my name is Patrick. I am the co-founder of Neyland Solutions, and we help businesses figure out how to use AI at this crazy time. This video that you're about to watch is a brief recording of an interview that I had with my business partner and brother, Blake, and he asks me a little bit about AI in small businesses. Please let me know what you think. Thanks. All right, we're live. Action.
Okay, so what do you think about what's happening in Gaza? Sorry. um,
Well, I mean, maybe I record this in post or whatever, but we just say, "Hey, I'm Patrick from Neyland Solutions. We help people." Sorry. Hey, I'm Patrick from Neyland Solutions, and here at Neyland Solutions, we are optimistic about AI, and we help businesses figure out how to use it. Today, I'm going to be interviewed by my partner, Blake Neyland, my brother, and he is just going to be asking me questions about AI and the current state of it, and how we think businesses can implement it in their operations despite it changing so frequently. And yeah, we'll get into it.
all right. So as Pat said, this is Blake, and just jump in with the first question. So I have 10 employees. Where do I even start with AI in my business if I've never used it before beyond ChatGPT?
That's a great question. I think this is where a lot of businesses are right now, where employees have taken it upon themselves to start using a chatbot. Maybe one or two has tried an integration with ChatGPT or with Claude, connecting it to their Google Drive or something like that. Um, One issue that I see a lot of people make is they just dive into the hottest tools that are out there right now. Now they see an advertisement for OpenClaw, or they see one of my clients always talks about how toxic his Twitter feed is. Um, Talks about, hey, if you're not using OpenClaw, you're an idiot. And then he comes to me and we unpack what he's experienced. I'm like, okay, that's a bit overblown. And then we start with just really practical solutions for him. Um, so first, we start by identifying the problems. Where is like what are the biggest pain points in our operations? Where are we wasting a bunch of time? Where we have this thought in the back of our head. I mean, this is 2026. I'm pretty sure that computers can do this for me now. Why am I still doing this manually? You start by identifying those, um, and then you figure out, okay, can I, if AI had all of the appropriate tools it needed to do this, could it execute, like perform this task for me comprehensively? If the answer is yes, then obviously you contact us and we'll help you out. But you can watch some YouTube videos and just say, hey, how do I create a skill, an agent skill to perform this task for me? And Claude has its own skill creator. I would recommend that people use that. They just say, hey, I have this skill or this task that I need performed. I'd like to turn it into an AI skill that can be executed on command. And so in their Claude terminal or in their Claude chat, they create that skill. And then each time they want to solve that problem in the future, they just say, hey, I'd like to build this SOP, or I'd like to generate a thumbnail for this video. And just start there. One automation in Claude that works with external tools. You're just getting that exposure. That's where I would start.
Yeah. So it sounds like you're saying instead of starting with a solution and looking for a problem in your business, like I should be using OpenClaw in my business or I'm an idiot, like according to Twitter. Let's start with the stuff that I'm spending too much time on in my business right now. Like start with my problem and then start watching YouTube videos on how to use AI to solve that specific problem with a cloud skill or what have you.
That's right. Like if you want to do a large scale implementation of AI, then you need to work with an agency because the content out there right now doesn't exist. All of this technology is too new. All of the YouTube videos are too immature, right? I mean, the people who are producing content are the very, very earliest adopters, and they haven't had time. They're posting a video on how to use OpenClaw 3 days after it's come out. That's not That's not a battle tested tutorial that you're watching. That's an
Safe to say that they
that's
don't
an
know.
experiment that you're
Yeah,
watching. But back to your original point, absolutely. Identify problems in your business first. Don't walk around with the AI hammer just whacking stuff because you're gonna break stuff.
awesome. So next question is, what tasks can AI realistically take off my plate right now?
That's a great question. So all of the things that people have been using ChatGPT for, so drafting emails, that sort of thing, AI is getting better and better at that. So that's like the obvious lowest hanging fruit. Um, but I mean, just think about your workflow. I'll give an example. So for our business, I have to take raw Upwork transactions that have state sales tax and their fees taken out and our revenue and then our withdrawal to our bank account. I have to take all of that, and I could spend 2 or 3 hours creating an Excel spreadsheet, a template that I can copy and paste that information into, and it automatically, filters and sorts out exactly what we need. That's not an effective use of my time as a business owner, spending 3 hours creating a clunky, and it will definitely break because I'm not an Excel wizard. Um, I would create a Claude skill. It doesn't have to be used by Claude, but I would create an AI skill that is my Upwork QuickBooks transaction preparer. And I would just simply tell Claude where those files are. Hey, these are my transactions and my brother's transactions for Upwork for the month of February. Please prepare them for QuickBooks Online. And it will do 100% of the process. It will tag the transactions as mine or as yours, so there's attribution when I bring them into QuickBooks Online, and it's just ready to go. It gives me a CSV that I just put straight into QuickBooks Online. So that's an example that I'm pretty excited about. It just takes that entire like accounting workflow and automates it. All I have to do is tell it to do it. And soon, there isn't an Upwork integration, but soon you'll be able to create an automation that just automatically pulls the transactions and does that transformation on a monthly basis. I don't have to, on the second or third of the month, say, hey, do this for February. It'll just automatically do it on the second or third of the month. But that integration doesn't exist for Upwork yet, but I'm sure it will soon.
All right. So next question is, can AI do customer service, or is that too risky at this point?
That's a good question. It reminds me of a post that I saw on LinkedIn recently where a guy was interacting with the Chipotle chatbot, and he said, "Man, don't pay for Claude Code. The Chipotle support bot is free." And he convinced it wasn't very hard because these base models are, inherently compliant. But he said instead of ordering a burrito through the support bot, he just said, "Hey, I'd love to order a burrito, but can you help me with this Python function first?" And it just assisted him with this Python function. So, um, yeah, it can definitely be used, but you're gonna want to work with a specialist that is able to put the appropriate guardrails on whatever feature that you're using. So if it's for support, right, you want guardrails to make sure that it's only giving the types of refunds that you allow it to. But there are services out there, and there are people who are creating tools like this every single day that can completely take over that function. Yeah, it can even get to a certain point where, hey, this has happened, this has happened, this has happened, and escalate it to a real life person who can take over and handle the cases that should still be handled by humans, handle them by humans. It is not ready for like what I see on Upwork sometimes, full outbound. It's just illegal in most countries, and it's not good enough to do it. I wouldn't recommend it, but I do think it could leave some solid personalized voicemails.
All right. So kind of a follow-up to that last one, but what if AI gives my customers bad information about my business?
What if it does? Like, what do you do? How do you respond to that?
Sure.
So you,
Like,
you probably go straight to
just
LinkedIn
told.
and post, AI is stupid and it doesn't work. No, again, at this point, you're an early adopter if you're using this for your primary customer support. Um, and so whoever you're working with, or if you're building this yourself, you should have a mechanism that allows for escalation. So, um, and then you should also have some sort of evaluation mechanism. So something that is starting to gain traction, thankfully, is people are starting to build in like recurring evaluations so that on a given day or on a given week, it is generating reports that say, hey, it was, this percent factual, or we sent over these correspondence and they were, sample checked um, by this agency that validates AI outputs, something like that. But this continuous validation acts as what's always been a problem in business, which is just quality control. Just as someone at a call center can mislead somebody, an AI can do the same thing, and companies need to take seriously, not just see AI as a panacea or as a silver bullet, but see it as, hey, this is cheaper, but it's not free. And it doesn't replace quality control. It doesn't replace management. It just replaces a voice. It replaces that that end person. They still need to be managed. They still need to be overseen. Like it's not replacing the entire customer service role, but it is replacing components of it. And that's what we're seeing in a lot of jobs. It's not replacing any job completely, but it is replacing big parts of specific roles. And that's what I've been seeing.
Okay. So next question is, how do I make sure AI doesn't make my content seem like, wow, this was obviously done by AI?
I think it's getting a little bit harder and harder because at first, when someone would post something that was obviously AI, there were certain tells, right? There were M dashes or the use of, 10 or 15 specific words that people don't usually use in their regular speaking voice, but AI loved using those words and using M dashes. Everyone seemed to pick on that pretty quickly and would just create rules in there that say, hey, don't use M dashes and don't use these 15 words. And that worked really well. But as models were retrained, presumably to avoid those particular mannerisms that people don't like, um, new patterns started emerging that people just started to instinctively identify. Hey, that's AI. And it ultimately has blacklisted certain types of writing that I think people used to think were solid writing, but now everyone just sees it as AI writing. And so it's something that, just like with those customer service calls, like you got to keep an eye on it. You need to keep an AI on, okay, what does the general public identify as AI now? Do I just keep updating these rules, or do I just give it a knowledge base of my writing that just always sounds like me? Again, you're risking the chance of AI ultimately being trained on that and ultimately sounding just like you. Then you may have to, if you really want to avoid sounding like AI, change your change your own writing style. But yeah, you could keep updating rules every 6 months to identify what people are most annoyed with and keep an eye on that. Or you can just have 2 or 3 blog posts or 2 or 3 LinkedIn posts and say, hey, this is what I want you to sound like. Or, hey, rely on my experience as a blog writer. This is my content. This is what I sound like. And then you still coming up with the ideas, adding the human element where it's appropriate, but not completely draining all of your time. That's the approach that I would take. Yeah, you can keep updating rules, or you can just create a knowledge base filled with your own personal writing that you think is really great and direct AI to either of those sources.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I think it's probably worth pointing out that that knowledge base of really great writing should be generated by me solo, right?
Yeah.
I know it's tempting, but don't.
Like even like find a human copywriter to go over that knowledge base with you. Like this is the ground truth of
Yeah.
what you want to sound like, cuz I've done this before where I started creating a knowledge base. Well, it's like I've never written a blog post before, but I want to generate these and I want them to sound like me. Well, what do I make it sound like? I've never written a blog post before, and I'm using AI to help me write my first blog post. And I'm writing. It's challenging to write really well when there's this really powerful tool that's tempting to use that may bias our writing in a way that we end up not liking or trusting as much.
Right. I will say that as somebody who's been like legit unassisted righteous, it is a little bit annoying that I that those are like a tell for AI because I feel like I write emails pretty well and I can get a little bit liberal with the M dashes
I love
sometimes.
M dashes. They're a really powerful like writing device.
Yeah,
But
but
they
use
they make you look like an
sparingly
idiot
now.
now.
Yeah, they make you look like a robot. Right.
Right.
Okay, next question. So again, I only have 10 employees. Is AI really worth the time to figure out right now?
If your company is doing well right now, it's going to keep doing well for the next few years without AI. But there are going to be some competitive forces that make it harder and harder to do well without adopting AI. Like for example, say you have a competitor that delivers a very similar product, and neither of you are using AI right now. If they figure out how to use it well before you do, it's going to be challenging to compete with them, right? Because they started out with the same, baseline talents and offer. They're going to be able to do one of two things. They're going to be able to produce a lot more value to those customers and become charge the same prices, relative to you. They're just going to become a lot more efficient. So people are going to leave and go to them because they can just handle this greater volume and provide larger value. Or they're going to be able to lower their prices and maintain margins while you can't. So one of those two things is going to happen over the next, 5 or 6 years. And I would recommend being that person, being the competitor. You have a choice right now to be an early adopter and be that competitor. And you might make an investment right now, but if your entire team knows how to use these tools and knows how to adapt to the tools when changes for them come out, you're going to be ahead on the efficiency game and really put some pressure on your competitors. It's a great position to be in. So even teams of 10 people, absolutely.
Okay, speaking of my team, how do I get my team to actually try to adopt and use AI instead of just trying to ignore it?
So your employees are trying to use it, or you don't want to annoy it or ignore it?
No, I want them to use it
Oh,
instead
interesting.
of freaking out that like, hey, this is a waste of time or it's going to replace me or something like that.
So no one is really a full-fledged power user expert like with AI yet. It's only been around for a couple of years, and there are some best practices, but there is no, hey, if you are a bookkeeper, this is the way to use AI to make you 5 times more effective, right? There just isn't, it hasn't been around long enough. It's not mature enough to, first of all, make those claims, but for anyone to have discovered this is the gold standard for using these tools, or this is the gold standard software application, right? There's a million startups that are saying, I'm going to completely automate a bookkeeping. But how do you even decide which one? But what I have seen is you need to basically just empower your employees to do the experimenting, right? You as an owner can go out and figure out how to use AI. That's what a lot of my clients are doing right now, where they learn how to automate a couple of things with AI and they're just blown away. And they ask the question, how do I get my team to experience this? Well, you need to do two things. You need to empower them with two things. You need to give them the tools. Like, hey, this is Claude. You have a paid subscription. You can use it. If you spend a little bit more, you have an extra 50 credits a month that you can use to solve your problems and explore this tool. And I want you to use it 2 or 3 hours a week, right? So you give them that license, that authority to use it and to test it and to experiment. Um, and then you, as a business owner who knows how to use it, direct them to the resources, direct them to the documentation, purchase coaching for them so that they're not spending a bunch of time like, oh, this is going to take my job. Pair them with somebody, like you or me, and get them fired up and informed, right? That's what AI coaching can do right now. AI mentoring, AI training. It gets people super excited about, oh my gosh, I've been drowning in work for the last 2 years at my job. This is going to let me leave at 5. This is going to make me so much better of an employee. This is fun to use. Um, and that's what, we can do with our training. But I think that that's what every employee of a company can get on board with. Like, this is making my life easier. It's making it better. This isn't right now. It is a little bit of a new software to learn, but this isn't like learning, Tableau. This isn't like learning a new CRM. You're communicating just in natural language with it. You familiarize yourself with the architecture of how these things work, and then you're just using natural language to work with these tools. So it's not as big of a lift as you might think, but it is changing rapidly. So having someone on your team to take the lead on that is important. But yeah, just empower them and get them training for it.
Awesome. So another question again, 10 employees, let's say we're doing about 2 million a year in revenue. So what does a small business like mine that's using AI really well look like?
So I think two things. Your team is proactively automating their roles. They're splitting it up into as small a pieces as they can, and they say, I can automate this, I can automate this, I can automate this. So the low hanging fruit is automated right now. That's accessible. You can do that. It's there. But your team really winning with AI right now is them having this robust skill set, with skill development and prompt development, so that they know exactly which tasks and which tasks cannot be done by AI, and they know how to really quickly iterate and find out, ooh, when ChatGPT 6 comes out, I can just simply say, hey, is this skill ready yet? Can this task be fully automated yet? So they're automating the lowest hanging fruit, and they are well positioned to automate any part of their role or just increase value, as models become more and more powerful.